Mark, today we're going to continue on our topic of father wounds, specifically the orphan spirit. Stay tuned. Well, Mark, we've been on this subject of the father wounds for quite some time, and one of our listeners sent us a comment, and you and I took a look at this, and we've been talking about it and researching a little bit, and it's called the orphan spirit. And just to dive into this, I just want to read a definition of what the orphan spirit is. It's described as an inner condition rather than a literal spirit. It points to the deep sense of disconnection, rejection, or abandonment a person may carry, even if they were never physically orphaned. It's about living as just if you have no source, no covering, no belonging, even though obviously God calls you his child. And the root of this disconnection is described as we start striving to earn love instead of resting in it. And we seek identity and achievement, approval, or control because we fear being unseen or unloved. And so a lot of these things, we kind of touched the fringe of them, touched the outside of them on some of our other podcasts. But I think this goes to another layer of depth that we kind of want to get into in our discussion today. But I know you kind of had a kind of a metaphor, an analogy of how you think about the orphan spirit.
Yeah, I think obviously it's not just people, it's not literal orphanship or whatever, but a couple of thoughts I have is your father is supposed to be the one person in your life that helps create opportunities for success, that helps launch you into your dreams, no matter how silly they, the son comes home and I'm going to buy a lawnmower and I'm going to mow yards till I get a car. That happens like probably 1 in 100, but it does happen. But the father's going to support that. But I think a real father catches you when you fail. And I always felt, and it's not that they had the financial resources, but they had the grace to say, I got you. Go ahead and do this. Try this because I got you. And I'm not going to judge you for it. I'm going to praise you for the attempt. And I feel like people that don't have that, like you can have a father and not have that, my dad came from the old school world, and he said, if you just work hard and pay your bills, it'll all work out. And he wound up never taking a vacation in his adult life and never had nothing when he died. But that's what he was taught because it was safe and he could predict it and control it. But I was talking a while ago with you is that the reality is not having that safety net of a father. It's like doing a trapeze act at a circus without no net. Like, this has got to work or I'm going to die. Mm-hmm. And it's just kind of nice to know your father can be a soft place to land. Like, I'm going to go out and venture, like just going to college. They don't know what college is like. They don't know if they're going to make it. They change their major like 3, 4, 5 times. And right now in our world, 60% of every college graduate winds up working in a field they didn't study in. So, but they find their way through it. And I think the ones that have a father that's supportive and a safety net and a soft place to land and to bounce idea, I think they go farther.
Yeah, it makes sense. I think that holds true. Some of the fruit that shows up, in an orphan, what we call an orphan spirit, we'll just kind of spend a moment on a couple of these is, so think about what you just said, someone's not there to catch them if they fall. someone that doesn't feel like someone has their back. So this is kind of a manifestation of that world. One thing is those folks would have a tendency to compare themselves to others, which is kind of makes sense that if you were looking for an approval, then you're always comparing yourself to someone else. Maybe it's someone. I come from the business world, as you know, and we were talking earlier about this, and I made the comment in the business community. I mean, if you work for a public company, you're compared to other public companies constantly. It's your peers. I mean, there's any financial advisor would look at how you perform against your peers. So the whole organization as a whole is compared to others. And then that same culture or tendency can flow down through the business ranks where individuals begin to compare themselves to others. And of course, that's how promotions are given and raises are given. It's supposed to be based on your own merit, but in many cases it's based on, are you a high performer, compared to everybody else. So if you have that, that orphan spirit, you would definitely have a tendency to compare yourself to others, and you could find yourself in one of two camps. I think you either strive to achieve, or you just give up on your identity and you just survive. So I think you either strive or survive in that environment.
Good. Would it be safe to say, I just got this when you're talking, possibly the approval of a father will trump the need for comparison to others?
Yeah, not only that, Mark, I think like what I was describing, the approval of the father spirit would focus more on fulfillment, joy, happiness, your goals in life, because maybe that fits achievement in the area you're in, and maybe it doesn't. Maybe you have to work 80 hours a week to achieve a certain level in the organization you're in. But a father would come in and say, yeah, but what about your family? What's important to you? What about your children? What? Because they're older, they've been there, and they would probably come from a different angle, from a support standpoint that you wouldn't get anywhere else. You're certainly not going to get that from your employer. Your employer never says, hey, I'm going to give you a promotion, I'm going to require more out of you, you're going to have to travel more, but let's sit down and talk about your family. I mean, most employers aren't going to do that. It's your responsibility to have that balance. But I think that's where the fathering spirit comes in. The father would say, let's talk about this. What about in your world? Is there
my world? Holy moly! I think we said this a couple of weeks on the podcast. Is I used to travel around and do consulting to churches, like help them evaluate where they are, maybe suggest some changes in their leadership or structure or way they do things. And I would always ask them, what does success look like to you? And no pastor ever told me success will be when I blank, when we get blank, when we get to here. But the level of comparison is astronomical. But in our world, I think pastors of smaller churches watch videos of bigger churches and compare themselves. And so they're always inadequate, insufficient, and not enough. it's kind of sad, but honestly, a spiritual father in their world and their ranks would help settle them, let them know they're enough, let them know they're doing a great job. Obviously, you said, success for the business world is the bottom line, or the stock market, or the return, or the whatever. But in the church world, we can't really find that. We only find it in how many people we have. And that's a really bad metrics. So, Toby, I just wanted to reiterate, I think in my world, some kind of spiritual fathering, some kind of guide. Because I like what you said, fathers give you permission to fail or succeed. I think that would eliminate a lot of comparison in my world. Because I can't even tell you, 42 years, the first question you hear at every conference, every teaching, every gathering, if there's more than one pastor there, the other pastor is going to ask him one question, and what is it?
Yeah, how many people go to your church? Yeah, I mean, I've heard it all my life as well, just from the outside. It's just a common question. I call it the currency. It's the church currency of how you're doing, right? It's like, which isn't always the case, as we know. So, and at the end, Mark, why does it matter? I mean,
I think we compare ourselves based upon our perceived success, but I used to ride around with Bishop Ash and look at these huge churches, and he'd say, you know what, that looks like success to you, but you know what that looks like to me? Good credit.
That's good.
It's almost like having a product, right? And saying, well, how many stores is your product in?
Yeah, I mean, I've been an executive in a small business, and I've been an executive in a $1 billion business. At the end of the day, I am the same person. It doesn't matter. Like, I have the same challenges in life. I have the same tendencies. Like, it just doesn't matter. One doesn't make me more successful than the other. It just makes my experience different. And we could just get past this comparing ourselves to each other, because we have this orphan spirit. We don't feel like we measure up. But our whole society is built around this. It's no wonder we struggle with this.
It's in everything. How many followers do you have? How many watchers on your videos? It's insane.
Well, Mark, what are we trying to obtain? Like, what's behind that? To me, it's like what you said a while ago. It's like nobody could tell you what success is. So we're chasing what we visualize as success, or how we define success, but yet we're measuring it the wrong way.
I think, I don't know how you feel, but in my world, I think you have to start a mission with a directive and go towards that. And success is in the journey, not in the destination. And as long as I'm in the journey, like in my world, we're finally turning the corner in the church world to, as long as people are loving each other, being healthy and being vulnerable, and marriages are being healed, and children are being raised right, and people are active, and that's success. It doesn't mean that a lot of people are coming or not a lot of people coming. There's just no metric for it. And I admire the business world because they have a metric for it. They have a measurement for it. They have a goal set for it. And honestly, a lot of the bigger mega churches, they run a lot like a business, and that's why they have more people. I don't know if they're more successful, but they have more people.
Kind of what came to my mind when you were talking is I was thinking about the true baby boomers, like the early baby boomers that came out of the World War II. And, a lot of them went through the Depression. A lot of them served in war. And there's just, it's what the baby boomers are, this influx of children that were born. And every generation from that point forward always said, I want my kids to have a better life than I had. And so they were very motivated to really provide for their families. And some of that looks like success, working hard to provide. And, there wasn't much assistance back in those days. If you didn't make it, you just didn't make it. And so consequently, I think there was like 2 or 3 generations that just really focused on success. And a lot of the baby boomers were high achievers because of where they came from. And but here's the point, and I think this is important to grasp. They were motivated by family. They were motivated by their children. They were motivated to say, I want my children to have something better than I had. And that's a very, great motivator. The question is, you got to have balance in all of that stuff. And we live in a different world today. Success and how it's defined and how you achieve it is different because, my kids, I would venture to say they didn't know what suffering is, not like my parents did.
Mm-hmm.
And so they didn't have a lot of lack in their life. And then the generation behind them, probably even less, with exceptions, of course. There's poverty everywhere. But just in general speaking, just a lot of the needs were met, basic needs. And so I don't know. I think there's something in that wanting to provide for our families causes us to measure things and to measure success in a way that is probably more monetary than it should be. Because the truth of it is, you and I are at that age where, at the end, my parents have both gone, and I had to, sell my parents' stuff that was left. And it's just a awareness of knowing like none of this really matters. The kids don't want it because their house is already full of stuff and they're older, and it's just, if the focus was on the relationships, and that's the only thing we get to take with us. Mm-hmm. On the other side is the relationships. But we still have to live. So it's like, where's that balance?
I was thinking when we first started this fatherhood wound, or this, whatever this was, we kind of we were talking about how do you know who your spiritual father could be, or your guide, or how do you pick them, how they pick you. And it just came to me when you're talking, a spiritual father, mother, guide, person is someone in your life that wants better for you than they had. That's how you know. If you go to a conference, you got to understand you're in a room full of brothers and sisters and sisters and brothers and peers and people who want their own thing. But it's rare to find a spiritual person that wants someone else to have more and better than they did, and to dodge all the obstacles.
Yeah.
That's how you know.
That's
you
good.
Just said it. And I want to say it again. We said it 3 weeks ago. Your father is the only person, one of the first and only people in your life that want a better life for you than they have.
So true. So true, Mark. And another fruit of the orphan spirit I want to kind of jump into before we run out of time is feeling unseen, unworthy, or easily rejected. And I think that's a common one that an orphan, somebody with an orphan spirit would really suffer with, is feeling unseen. We've talked a lot about feeling unworthy, but feeling unseen is interesting to me, because that could be, I'm in a relationship, but I feel unseen or unknown. I'm in a house full of people, my own family, but how many men go home tonight after work, sit in the house, watch the Monday night football game, and feel unseen by their own family? And I'm not saying their own family is treating them that way. It's a feeling that they have because they feel abandoned in life. They feel like an orphan, so they feel unseen. And here's another way to say it, Mark, is what I do doesn't matter to anybody. Like, I go to work every day and I provide for my family. I do this, I do that, whatever it is, but it doesn't matter to anybody. Man, if I can't tell you how many people I've ran into that describe it that way. Just what I do just doesn't matter to anybody.
Yes, I work and bring in income, and everybody else has a great life, not me.
Right.
This is my wheelhouse, because you can project rejection. You almost project it. Like what you're saying is that may not be the reality the family's given to you, but that's how you're already coming in like that, and they can't break the barrier of your own rejection, of your own. It's just hard to love people that are projecting rejection. They expect it, and it's really hard. No matter what they do, it's never going to be good enough.
But don't you think they've rejected themselves first?
Yes.
Like they're invisible to themselves. They say to themselves, what I do don't matter. Doesn't matter. They feel invisible to themselves in a way, you know what I mean by that?
I remember watching, these orphan movie films, and the truth is, the kids that are really young, like brand new, 2 years and up, they get adopted. But the longer you're in the system, the less chance you get adopted. And every time, and I remember those movies, every time an adopted family would come, the older kids are like, at some point they project rejection and say, no one's gonna pick me. And I think that's what we're saying today is the longer you stay in this, the less reality that you're going to feel seen and heard. But we all have at the end of the day, we all have a Heavenly Father who sets us in spiritual families. It's who's accepted us in Beloved in Romans chapter 8. He did not give us the orphan spirit. He gave us the spirit of adoption. And it causes us to say, you're my father. I finally found a father. So no matter what your situation is, there is a Heavenly Father that, and his primary objective is to put a spirit of adoption or acceptance. And we should feel more a certain way about that, because when you adopt a child, it's almost like a greater love than just having one. And I don't want to say that in a weird way, but you literally chose this child. You literally said, I'm going to take this child out of this orphan state and bring him into family and let him live as my own. And if that's the kingdom, I'm going to bring you in and let you live as my own son. I don't want you to live as an orphan anymore.
We're talking about the creator of the universe.
Yes.
That said that to us.
Yes.
He said, I want you, I've chosen you, and I don't want you to live
I
as an
chose
orphan.
you. How many kids, Toby, were actually mistakes or slip-ups?
Yeah, good point.
It doesn't mean they weren't loved and accepted and approved or whatever. But to be an adopted parent, to be an adopted family, that is a humongous choice.
Well, how many kids have gone through, their parents went through divorce and feel like that they were abandoned
Yeah.
by somebody, by one of the parents, just because they were kids, they didn't understand. And they carried that into adulthood, and at 30, 40, 50 years old, they're struggling with feeling unworthy and rejected and with intimacy and trust. And it all stems from feeling abandoned by a parent, which is that orphan spirit. It's the same thing.
But also, even on top of that, not only abandoned by a parent, but also they accept the responsibility that it was my fault.
Yeah.
That's what an orphan spirit is. I'm fatherless, motherless, and it's my fault. If I would only never been born, I wouldn't be in this state. I wouldn't be in this position or condition. I've heard it. If I wasn't been born, my parents would still be together.
Yeah.
That is an orphan spirit. That is the voice of deep rejection and self-defecation, because I've heard it. I've heard people tell me in my lifetime, my parents' divorce made me feel like it was my fault. And you carry that, like what we've been talking about for weeks and weeks and weeks. That's a deep wound that you carry, and it keeps re-manifesting itself over and over and over.
Yeah.
So we
Mark,
should address it.
You talked about Romans 8, and we know that God's given us the spirit of adoption. But how do we go from knowing to living that? Like, where does it? I mean, everything starts with an awareness. I get that, but how do we grow in that?
It's a personal journey, but it's not meant to be done by yourself. That's where the problem lies. All the issues that the orphan spirit, everything that we struggle with is because we're in a lone, isolated state, whether it's addiction.
We want to apologize to our audience. We had a little bit of technical difficulties, and we're going to pick this subject back up next week. And but Mark, while we have a moment before we sign off, I just want to remind everybody about our Breaking Biscuits experience. That's for couples coming up in the month of January. It's January 23rd through the 25th in Branson, Missouri. This will absolutely change your life. If anything we've talked about in these podcasts resonates with you, this is the place to go. This is the event to attend. It's specifically for couples, but you get to do a lot of deep personal work as well. So, and it could be from anywhere, a couple in crisis to a couple that just wants to spend some time trying to get the level of intimacy or vulnerability or just a spark going again and communication back in the relationship. So we teach tools, and so you'll take tools home with you, but also there's an experience there that honestly we cannot describe in a podcast, because you just have to attend to experience the experience. That's the name.
Yes.
But if you have an interest, drop us a line, send us a message on Facebook, or go to breakingbiscuits.com. There's ways to fill out a form, and anything else, Mark, on that you'd like to add?
You're going to be pleasantly surprised. I can tell you that. You're going to see yourself and your spouse in a new way like you've never dreamed. I will guarantee it.
And I just want to mention we have room for 5 couples. So each couple will have a private, king size, beautiful room to stay in. All the accommodations are covered in the tuition and the cost to attend. Reach out to us. We have scholarships available. So, fill out the form. We'll get with you and we'll interview you if you're interested in coming, if you'd like a scholarship. And we've got some scholarships available that could help with the cost as well. So please reach out. January is just around the corner, and we'd like to get these slots filled up so that we can set our next date.
Yes. Thanks, and like and share. It's important.
Please do. And thank you so much for your time today. And Mark, we didn't get very far, but I guess we're kind of used to that at this stage. It's okay. We just talk as it comes to us.
Yeah.
So until next time, this is Breaking Biscuits, and God bless, and can't wait to see you next week.
Yes.